All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to my live stream. Hope you're having a nice day, and we are just about to get started here. Let's see. Just moving a few things around here real quick. Thank you to everyone who checked out the last live stream, part 1 of this painting. If you haven't watched that, you should at least jump through and watch a little bit of the process, maybe check out a few of the bits and pieces of the conversation, just so you have some context for what I'm trying to do in this painting. But anyway, today we're just going to go ahead and keep working on the portrait. I have my mirror set up still on the right side of my easel off camera. Before I can start painting, I do have to replenish a few colors on my palette. So I'm going to do that real quick. Let's see if I can move a few things around here. I'll have to grab my brushes at some point here soon too. Okay, so we need burnt sienna. I know we're going to need phthalo green and phthalo blue. I don't know if I'll use those colors today, but it would be helpful to at least have them on the palette. I also need Portland Cool Gray. I really love these Portland chromatic grays from Gamblin. I've been using the warm and cool grays from them a lot recently. I've been buying them in big jars and then tubing them up myself. That seems to be a bit cheaper if you do it that way. If you can buy things in bulk. Where's my burnt sienna tube? Maybe that's over in my cart. Probably should have set some of this stuff up before doing the live stream, but I had to eat lunch and Lenny had to go outside, our dog. That way, hopefully if he comes down here, he can just kind of chill out and take a nap or something. We're going to add some burnt sienna. I've been using Gamblin's burnt sienna a lot lately, but I don't know where that tube is. So this is Rembrandt. I feel like now I'll probably find the Gamblin tube. But anyway, I can put a little bit of raw umber. I have burnt umber on my palette already, but this will help kind of give me a little bit quicker of a neutral if I need to gray things out. Yesterday we live streamed for almost 4 hours. I think it was 3 hours and 40 minutes or so. And I have a feeling I'll probably paint for that long today. Got quite a bit of titanium white actually. Maybe I don't need more titanium white. I can probably put some more ultramarine blue down though. Here's our phthalo green, just a little bit. feel like my paint tubes have gotten all rearranged lately. After that painting retreat, I had moved some things so I could do some plein air painting, and now I can't find some of my colors. Here's my phthalo blue. I think this is ultraviolet. Alright, we're almost there, I promise. Here's some phthalo blue. And ultramarine. Okay, I think that should be enough paint to get started. Since I'm working in a very thin consistency with my paint on this, I don't really need a ton of paint right now. Set down our brushes. All right, let's get started. So, I got pretty far yesterday in those 3 hours of painting. Today I want to try to correct some of my proportions, really study the, the shapes of the face, maybe bring up a little bit more temperature in the warm and cool zones of the palette. And just overall try to make sure that things are looking pretty accurate today. I can leave the Giorgio de Chirico painting up on the side there, at least for a little while. I don't know if I'll keep up the image the whole time. But for now, I think it helps just to have as a reference for me and for anyone who's unfamiliar with what I'm doing in this painting. So. Actually, I could probably use a little bit more medium too. This tube of oleo gel is almost empty. I'm going to have to fill up a new tube here soon. I think I have quite a bit more medium in a jar, but it's nice just to have a tube as opposed to a big jar that I have to crack open and keep sealed, just so things don't dry out. When I buy paint in little jars, like 16-ounce jars, I try to tube them up immediately because if I only tube up part of whatever's inside, especially paint, the medium seems to stay wet a lot longer, but the oil paint will start to crust on the top. And you can put like plastic wrap or like a sandwich bag or something, and squish that down into the paint inside the jar, and that will help. That'll extend a lot of that sealed drying time. But I have a few colors that I bought as a tube, as a jar, but because I have a few like tubes of that color, or at least like one tube of that color, so I haven't opened the jar. So at some point soon I'll have to probably start tubing up a bit more paint. And medium, it looks like. Alright, let's grab some alizarin. I want to get into some of the shadow shapes around my nose today and really try to nail down what I'm looking at there. There's a slight warmth to the right side of the shadow right before it hits that highlight area, and I would like to be able to push some of that chroma oops, that's not what I'm trying to do. Whatever, I can always paint over that. put a little bit more of a warm shadow color in here. I think this is really going to help the highlight glow on my cheek of this shape here. Whenever I'm painting portraits, these are the areas that are really fun to paint because there's typically a nice, strong shape between the shadow, you know, or a combination of shapes between the highlight areas and the shadows. And then, like, thinking in terms of design and shape, you know, those are the things I try to look for to really centralize the design, or, you know, that sense of contrast with proportions. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of warmth right along this shape over here. So part of the plan is to try to correct some of the edges and the proportions from yesterday. Like, I took a few pictures last night before I cleaned up my brushes and everything, and you know, I could see where certain parts of, like, the nose, maybe the dimensions were a little too wide or the curve was a little too round. So today I'm going to try to go in and fix some of those things that I saw. I want to bring a little bit of warmth along this shadow here. The surface of the painting is still a little sticky from yesterday. It's not dry all the way, but I can feel that tackiness as the paint is starting to set on the panel, which sometimes in some areas actually is harder to paint into, because if you're using a fairly thin paint still with medium, it can be hard to get that new paint to really stick without disrupting the color that's below it. But you kind of just have to be willing to try it a few times to get it right. Put a little bit of the salmon color down here.
It's tax season, and at Lights Rock, we know you're tired of numbers, but this one you need to hear. 16.5 billion.
That cadmium orange that I mixed in with this color is really, really warm, obviously, but it's helping to really push those edges that look really, you know, really intense in terms of contrast, but like around the lips, I'm noticing that the palette of colors there are more of a cooler warm. So I'm trying not to put too much of that cadmium orange in the lips. There is this little warm spot here. It's a little too chromatic, I think. dark. Let's try this. Oops. Man, this is a very serious portrait. Okay, I think maybe I can probably start to look at some of the highlights now, the higher key colors. Let's try to mix up something for the cheek area.
Feels like I'm in this Walt Disney World parade. You in the play. Watch. Get it out! Mom, don't yell shoot. Girl, this magic is for everybody.
Ready to play? Visit DisneyWorld.com/game to play.
Cable internet, if you're listening, it's over. It's not me, it's you. Please get your cords out of my house.
Dump cable and get U.S. Cellular home internet for just $39.99 a month when bundled with a wireless plan with a 3-year price lock guarantee. Built for us. Terms apply. See UScellular.com for details.
Okay, that looks pretty good.
It's like Clorox. It feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving to the car wash.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no. Wait, whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Norfolk, Illinois.
Hey, Raynola, how's it going? Thanks for coming back. I'm glad that you can paint along while I'm working too. Hope you're having a nice day so far. Yeah, I totally agree. You gotta appreciate the days you can just be painting and making progress, you know. I was just thinking about that actually this morning, like how just better I feel, how much better I feel mentally and emotionally if I can paint for at least like 2 or 3 hours a day. I feel like that really makes a big difference. And the last 2 weeks or so, I feel like I've been able to keep up a pretty good average. And part of that's just because I've been working on so many different projects at the same time. There's always something to do. But by live streaming, that's helping me. Just come down into the studio and get to work, you know, and start working. And before I know it, it's like 4 hours have gone by. Otherwise, I feel like I'll just sit and think about all the different things that I want to try to do, most of which is not painting related. It's like website stuff or applying to things or updating my portfolio and, you know, creating little posts for Instagram or, you know, YouTube or whatever. And it's really easy for me to just sit and overthink some of that stuff, and then that feels like I'm wasting time. So this has been a really nice change of pace from some of those things. You know, and I also just feel like by signing up to do or not signing up, but choosing to do a few different types of projects at the same time, that's always been healthy for me. I mean, in terms of being excited about what I'm working on. As soon as I start to feel like I'm getting stuck or maybe bored of a particular painting, I could just jump into one of the other projects that I have going. But with this self-portrait painting, I definitely want to try to get this done in time to apply to this juried show. And I said this the other day, I think, that, you know, it's pretty unusual for me to create paintings specifically for a juried show, but this one felt very exciting, you know, to be able to just prioritize a few weeks of my year and just allow that time to be devoted to one painting like this is, it's hard for me to convince myself to do that, even though I feel like a lot of my favorite artists, I think, work that way. They kind of will dive really deep into their process and focus on, one or two very particular ideas within their process, and then move on from there once those pieces are done. And I feel like I definitely have a tendency to want to just try a bunch of new things all the time, and then when I look back, sometimes it feels like the paintings aren't that connected, Creating is great for bringing balance mental health. I think that's what it's crazy how that happens, right? You kind of get addicted to the process, and that feeling of creating something and transforming the materials, I think, is super addictive. I remember when I was really getting into painting as a college student, and I started obsessing over oil painting, and there would be 6-hour sessions in the evening. Sometimes I'd be in the studio with a few of the other students, or maybe by myself some of the times, and 6 hours would go by and it would feel like 2 hours went by, which is always kind of wild how that happens. You get in that flow state and you're just so in tune with the process that you kind of forget to do other things like eat or go to the bathroom or whatever. You're kind of just hyper focused. I feel very fortunate that I found painting, which is something like that. It allows me to just really, slow down and really become present in the moment. And I hope everybody can find something like that, Do you paint from observation a lot, Raynola? Nice. That's cool that you do a lot of portrait painting too. I definitely think that if we practice painting from observation, it helps out every other type of painting that we want to do. For me, it's always felt like really worth my time to do any kind of still life or portraiture or figure drawing or plein air painting. I feel like that builds this interior database of insights into that doesn't really look how it would appear, or these two things feel like they're not connected, and maybe it's the character of the relationships of the light that's throwing it off. Those types of things I feel like are easier to check and correct after painting from observation. And that's really cool that you teach too. And I agree with what you said too, like that feeling of, just being super connected to your process when it feels like everyone else is, asleep or doing their own thing. It just feels very peaceful when that happens, which is always really nice. I'm trying to get some of these shapes under my eye here.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Alright, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Now available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. Like you know to check you have gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company, Williamsburg, Illinois.
Oh, hey, I missed some of these comments you put. Yeah, feel free just to, hang out, or if you have anything, any questions or comments or things you want to add, feel free to add them in. I might not be checking as often as I'm building up some of these smaller nuances in the painting, but thanks for hanging out. It's fun just to know that other people are also working and painting along. Hopefully my music, or if I'm sharing, stories or whatever. Hopefully that's fun to listen to. I know some of the playlists that I've been playing, they're listed as like copyright-free music, but a couple of my live streams were flagged for copyright. Like their YouTube's filter was able to catch some of the songs. I guess they didn't say that I was gonna lose access to my video or anything like that, but I'm trying to find playlists that are copyright free for music. Plus the music is not that loud, so it's impressive how much is picked up through those filters. Stand up for a minute and look back at this. So I like how this is developing. There's this really subtle shift in temperature, like things are getting a little bit more towards the ochre yellow on the forehead. I definitely need to bring in more of that contrast that's on the cheek up here on the forehead, so I think I'm going to work on that for a little while and see how that looks. But I'm mostly using my burnt umber, ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of raw umber, and alizarin to get a dark, kind of warm shadow color. And it's really easy for me to push the warm or cool properties between ultramarine blue and alizarin. It's nice to be able to think in terms of temperature just between these few piles on my palette here.
you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving to the car wash. Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings and terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates of Illinois.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Right, that could go trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Canva presents the killer of productivity. It was an ordinary workday until
Oh no, this meeting could have been an email.
run. Canva had a creative solve.
Get email. I'll just put the info the team needs in a Canva doc, and I'll make it visual with images, charts, and graphics.
Bring productivity killers to justice with creativity. Love your work at canva.com.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving through the car wash.
Whoa, 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 no, 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 wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Norfolk, Illinois.
Well, I feel like it's starting to feel a little bit closer to the level of information or detail that I'm hoping to get in this portrait. It's definitely going to take a while though to get the small nuances around the eye and the nose. So I'm going to blend out some of what I have in other areas. And soften things a little bit again. It's been a long time since I've made a painting like this that's, trying to really convey the luminosity of the subject and this like really gradual sense of volume. Forgot how much I enjoy painting this way. Thanks for hanging out, Raynola. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for the compliment on the painting too. I think this is going to be one of those paintings that's going to take me a few weeks, and once it's done, I'll be really fulfilled, I think, just with the experience, and that it's going to become a bit of a time capsule for me. So I'm glad you're here to help, just hang out and be part of this process with me. Thanks for being here. Have a great class.
Fuel up gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break for like 5 minutes or so. Feel free to hang out if you're still watching, but I will be back and I'll keep painting after I stretch my legs and grab some tea. Yeah, be back soon.
backwards. My last guy only ever told me the price after he was finished.
Well, at H&R Block, we tell you the pricing up front.
That's some forward thinking. I'm in. Switch to H&R Block for upfront transparent pricing, so you know the costs before your tax prep begins. It's better with Block. Limitations apply. Descriptions, benefits, and details at hrblock.com/guarantees.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving to the car wash.
Whoa, 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 no, wait, whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Norfolk, Illinois.
checking Allstate first. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving through the car wash.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no, 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 no. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings Day. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
All right, listen up, team. We ain't quitting. We don't quit out on that field. We don't quit the game. And we don't quit on finding the right car. Because with the CarMax 10-day money-back guarantee, you have 10 days to love your car.
But coach, we're 8. You don't need to know what a CarMax 10-day money-back guarantee is.
Well, you gotta learn someday.
10-day money-back guarantee for the win. CarMax. Visit CarMax.com for details.
Hey Pedro, how's it going? Yeah, I was able to get pretty far by the end of yesterday's session. And I've started to really slow down and dig into some of the details here of the portrait, but it's going pretty well. Hope you're having a nice day. I'm glad that you were able to tune in for the second session here. Yesterday's live stream, I think, was like 3 hours and 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And I was able to get most of the head and the body put in. And so far today, I've just been trying to bring up a little bit more of the chroma and the colors and edit some of the shapes. But it's getting there.
checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving to the car wash.
Whoa, 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 no, 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 wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Woo! Did you see that, honey?
Yep, we just scored an instant online offer to sell our car to CarMax.
No, our son. He just scored the winning touchdown for the first time ever. Did you even get it on video?
No, but I have a 360-degree view of this sleek blue SUV with the moonroof we can get if we sell.
Oh, well, that does look kind of nice.
Oh, look! He's going for another touchdown!
Instant online offers. CarMax.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. It feels like.
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check you have gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com.
Maybe I can.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
We'll just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving to the car wash.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no, 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 no. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates of Illinois.
Hey, there's the new guy. He moved into Sheila's apartment downstairs.
That's Danny? I keep seeing his Wi-Fi network. $4.
Hey, hey, Danny, welcome to the building. Want to join? We're grilling. Yeah, sure. Sweet, sweet. Hey, just wondering, what's your mother's maiden name?
I'm going to take another break here for a few minutes and let my dog outside. My shoulder is starting to cramp up again too, so this way I can stretch for a few minutes, but I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thanks for sticking around. I'll probably stream for another hour, I think, today. Let's see how far I can get on the portrait today.
Alright, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Now available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scent Bleach. Use as directed.
Alright, I'll be back. Well, I thought my dog had to go outside, but he just kind of stood there and stared at me. So gave him some water. Maybe he's just thirsty. Okay, feels good to move around. It's hard to sit still and just keep turning my head left and right, a few inches for hours and hours and hours. I don't know about anyone else. If you paint self-portraits from a mirror, or even just portraits of friends, like if you ever get cramps in your left, if you're right-handed, do you ever get cramps on your left trap muscle, trapezius muscle? Because that happens to me all the time, and just get like these big knots on the side of my neck. Just gonna look up a few things before I get started again. All right, let's get back into it. I was debating for a long time whether or not to paint some of the shapes in my neck or ear, and I'm glad that I'm, at least in a very simple way, describing some of those details, because I think it just makes the head feel a little bit more volumetric, and I don't want to really get into a lot of small shapes on that side of the head. I really like looking at figurative paintings where you just see these big, thin, umber shapes, like the sort of block-in shapes. Grab a little bit more tea. These days where I can just sit down in my studio and drink tea and work on these very methodical, slow paintings are really nice days. I'll have to remember this when I'm feeling stressed out over the summer with traveling and events and teaching and all that stuff. I like teaching and I like traveling, but it's nice not to feel like you're on a super intense schedule where you just have to get something done so you can move on to the next thing on your list. And the winter months are typically my really slow weeks out of the year where I can work on these really long, time-intensive projects like this, because I don't feel the pressure to hurry up and rush through, and then I end up liking the paintings more if I can spend this much time on them. That's the beauty of our process and feeling connected to the process. So I'm really grateful that I have this time to really slow down and observe closely. And I've made probably 20 or maybe just over 20 self-portraits, which compared to some artists, that's really not that many, but compared to others, that's a lot. So it's relative, but in terms of my self-portrait paintings that I've made, this is probably first or second in terms of how much time I'm putting into the painting. A lot of them were one session paintings and were really just like a exercise in trying to practice painting or get a likeness of my face, or to try a technique or a color palette, those sort of exercise based ideas. Whereas this feels like I'm really trying to slow things down and try to be as accurate as possible with what I'm observing here. So I'm really happy about that. I think the older I get, the more interested I am in making less paintings, but making paintings that are really meaningful and feel like these time capsules of that moment in my life. And a self-portrait, is already super personal, but to be able to really take it seriously and slow down and think about the environment of the body and the figure in the painting. You know, that's something that I'm very interested in thinking about with this painting. You know, it's like, what is the context of the figure, the subject? You know, this could be a portrait about my own individual, very personal experience, or, you know, I could consider things that feel more universal. You know, whether I interpret the painting in like a singular way on either side of that spectrum, I think it's going to have qualities that will be personal and qualities that will be universal either way. But while I'm working on the painting, I can really think about that opportunity, you know, to connect this to something beyond just my own, you know, small individual experience. So I've been sketching some ideas. I think my hair it's been messy both days that I've been working on this painting, but the shapes along my neck are different than they were yesterday. I kind of like how it looks today, so we're going to go with how it looks today. Plus that little bit of negative space there, I think, is going to help make this contour a lot more interesting. Oh, excuse me. I woke up with a little bit of a sore throat this morning. Yesterday I felt like I was starting to get sick, but last night I felt normal. And up until, you know, this afternoon I felt okay. So it's hard to tell if I'm getting sick or not.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Hey, there's the new guy. He moved into Sheila's apartment downstairs.
I think maybe that color I just put in was a little too warm. Bring a little bit more ultramarine blue.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving through the car wash.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no, 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 no. Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
I still think I'm going to end up putting my hand in the painting, kind of like DeCurco's self-portrait, but right now I'm wearing my gloves. I don't really want to work on that right now. I also think I might try to figure out the background before I do that. That way I'm not, you know, trying to paint around my hand. But once I have an idea of what will be in the background, before I really paint that to its full like rendered state, I'll probably block out the area of my hand just so I'm not dealing with texture and some of that stuff that I have to paint over once I work on the hand. I think I might work on my jacket for a little while here. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about is if I want to include the that little strip of like wall or tabletop surface that's in Kiriko's painting. It's really subtle, but at the very bottom there's that long skinny rectangle that it looks like that's what the bust is sitting on or resting on, and that little tangerine citrus fruit there. And I like putting something in the foreground like that as context for the figure. Part of me though is considering maybe putting mine behind the figure, so it's sort of like my portrait, then the wall, and then the background. And I've been thinking about what to do in place of the left portrait sort of sculpture in his painting, and I've gone through a few ideas. Initially I was thinking maybe I would do like another portrait just facing the same direction as the sculpture bust, but that felt a little, I don't know, just a little too simple. And I was like I want something a bit more removed from just my body as that part of the painting. And then I was thinking about this character that I used to paint that I called Neighbor. Actually, I have stickers of one of the paintings I made this was back in 2020 after I graduated from grad school. I had made a bunch of these stickers based on a painting called Snake Noises. And these are actually still available on my website in my shop. Depending on when you're watching this, my shop will be open or closed. But this character was called Neighbor, and it was kind of this like citrus pie wheel head idea. And I made probably like 10 paintings with this character in them. And so I was sort of thinking, well, maybe I'll revisit that character and maybe make it a bit more like a suit instead, like a costume. So I was thinking if I was going to do something like this, you would be able to still see through this mesh kind of screen, and you'd see part of a head of a person in there. And I was thinking it'd probably be another self-portrait in there, but it would be difficult to figure out who the identity or what the identity was of that person. So that was the first idea, and I started thinking, well, maybe it could be like a survival suit, future, sort of like the future self. And it's like, what sort of attire or what sort of suit would you have to wear to survive, in 400 years or 600 years? That was the initial idea. And then I was starting to just write down other, related concepts like a cyborg, maybe like computer, half organic, body type of person. So then that was sort of this idea where the suit is more electrical and has all of these wires and different, computer parts. And then I was thinking maybe that mesh could actually be a cooling fan for a computer instead. And I really like that concept. And I might still go with that. We'll see. And then I was thinking about Nick Cave, the artist who does these costume pieces, and maybe looking at some of his work. I feel like I've seen some that have these really weird sort of like tubular, tube-shaped heads. And then the last thing I wrote down was Bruegel. Peter Bruegel the Elder was a Northern Renaissance painter who did this drawing or print of a bunch of these figures out in a field, and they were beekeepers, and they had a similar kind of suit. And I've always loved that strangeness of the suit that they wear, the suits they wear in that image that he did. So anyways, those were some of the first ideas. And then if I do go with the computer sort of costume suit, I was already thinking maybe the suit would be made out of that green plastic that you see motherboard parts attached to. But then I was like, well, I don't know, maybe that feels a little bit too confusing, or that might be difficult to convey. And I was talking with my wife last night about it, and she was like, what if you did like a screen? And then I was thinking, well, maybe like a hologram or like projection kind of image. But that also felt kind of straightforward and simple. But I like this idea of the body becoming digital, or these alternate egos and personas that we have by creating online profiles with different applications. And it's like you kind of live simultaneously in these different worlds nowadays, and that started to feel very related to what the Kiriko's painting makes me think of, which is like this, two these like two coexisting versions of the self, one being organic, one being inorganic, or at the very least more permanent than the other. I like that duality and that contrast of time in one image, and when I started to think about the digital self, that started to feel like it was connected to what Giorgio was doing in his painting. And I started imagining, what if the figure was painted pretty naturally, and I could be behind this like tabletop surface with other objects on it, and the body could be turning into a signal of light, So I've started researching, things related to computer signals and light, and thinking about like RGB, is the version of color. It's like an additive color system, as opposed to, in the natural world, objects absorb light rays and reflect back ones that they don't absorb, and that's the color that we perceive, unless you're partially colorblind or colorblind. But I'm trying to do some research now on that language of light, that's more of a digital language of light, and think about that as a visual representation. So if anyone has ideas on that stuff, and you want to suggest research for me to look at, please let me know. The other thing I'm trying to imagine already is the background or the environment of the painting. And in Dekiriko's painting, you can see he's got this combination of interior and exterior space, which is something I think I want to also maybe incorporate into my painting, and kind of doubling down on this idea of the organic and the inorganic. I was already thinking, what if I created this room full of houseplants, because my wife and I have probably 30 different houseplants. A lot of them are pretty small, but a couple of them are really large plants. And I like the idea of this like green, leafy, textural pattern in the background on the right side of the painting, and then maybe having this cutout arched window doorway that leads us into a different type of landscape that maybe relates more to a digital or virtual landscape. That, again, it's like I can get really didactic and really maybe like on the nose or obvious with some of those ideas, so I don't know if they're going to end up making it into my process. But regardless, I thought I would share a little update on what I've been imagining here. So I'll give you a quick look of this sketch from last night. And then these were two other quick little sketches of the body sort of transforming. If I can get this to focus. I don't know why it doesn't want to focus on those. But anyway, you can kind of get the idea of the head sort of being pulled into this, different spectrum of light. So I think I'll end up going with something like this. I might still go with the like computer suit idea. That feels a little bit closer to the type of shape, and especially this one feels a lot like Dekiriko's bust, sort of form and shape. So we'll see what happens. I've got some time to think about what direction I want to go, and for now I can just really focus on painting the portrait in the foreground, which I'm having a lot of fun working on this. It's been a while since I've done a really accurate self-portrait painting like this, where I'm trying to carefully study the shapes. All right, let's get back to the jacket part of the painting here. Can bring in a little bit more color. There's a nice glowing little edge to the cast shadow from my head on my jacket, or my neck on my jacket. I'm gonna try to put that in here. These are some of my favorite types of details to put in when I'm plein air painting too. trying to create a little bit more of a pop effect in the warm, reflective areas of the landscape, and really trying to just pump the temperature up along that edge. I feel like that always creates a really satisfying effect in the paintings. Probably hold up my hand just so I can see how the light is blocked out when my arm is up. Okay, I'm gonna take one more break here. My dog definitely needs something, so I'm gonna see if he has to go outside. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Sorry for taking so many breaks today. You wanna go outside? Come on. All right, and we're back. Man, Lenny is pretty needy today. Sometimes sometimes he's chill and just kind of sleeps on our bed. But today he's definitely, I think he's pretty bored. So we'll have to take him for a walk later today. All right, let's get back into this here. I'm going to try to keep working on my jacket for a while. We're just over 3 hours now. That's pretty good.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. It feels like.
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving through the car wash.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no, 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 no. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
All right, listen up, team. We ain't quit. We don't quit out on that field. We don't quit the game. And we don't quit on finding the right car. Because with the CarMax 10-day money-back guarantee, you have 10 days to love your car.
But coach, we're 8. You don't need to know what a CarMax 10-day money-back guarantee is.
Well, you gotta learn someday.
10-day money-back guarantee for the win. CarMax. Visit CarMax.com for details.
probably be using a different brush for this part because these Velvet Touch Princeton brushes are really nice. They're really smooth hairs, and when I'm sketching out shapes like this, sometimes I will like really push the brush pretty hard into the surface of the panel, and I'm noticing that the hairs are starting to kind of fray out. So I need to be careful. So I really like these brushes a lot. Should probably just order a couple more from Blick, these same sizes that I like. And it doesn't really matter if I'm pretty rough with some of them. comes my dog again.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com. Like you know to check fuel up gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or Allstate.com.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
So, I heard you guys are millionaires.
Yeah, now we got AT&T fiber and wireless, so we're connected everywhere we go.
Even out here?
At our annual barbecue, or more like barbecue.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a nice little thing to do.
It really is.
Anyway, I gotta check on this rack of baby back kids.
Like me, the buy to that.
Yes, you can.
You look like a billionaire. Go all in party now connectivity anywhere you go. AT&T Fiber plus wireless. AT&T Fiber. Limited availability. Select areas.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Alright, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Now available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
888-ALL-STATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check fuel up gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALL-STATE or allstate.com.
Maybe I can.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates of Illinois.
Hey, it's the new guy. Moved into Sheila's apartment downstairs.
That's Danny? I haven't seen his Wi-Fi network. $4.
Hey, Danny, welcome to the building. Want to join? We're on. Sure, sweet. Hey, just wondering, what's your mother's name? Wait, what?
Don't listen to him, Danny. Anyway, what was the name of the stream you grew up on?
Make your next move fast and easy with AT&T Fiber with all 5 and get a signal so strong everyone will notice, even your neighbors.
When the availability comes
Okay, I think I'm gonna probably end the stream here in a few minutes. Just wanted to at least bring in some of the, even background color, because this green I used is so vibrant that it really interrupts the way I'm able to gauge my colors and values and that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna continue working on the hand, I think. Maybe tomorrow, if I live stream tomorrow. I also need to work on some of my illustration paintings. I don't know if I'll live stream those. I might just work on those without, being live, just so I can have a break from streaming and worrying about recording things. This project, though, like I've been saying, I do want to try to keep most of the process of making this painting documented on YouTube. So I think that's why I'm also going to try to keep the other projects off of YouTube for a little while. I don't know. We'll see. I might change my mind and go live again when I work on those illustration paintings. Who knows? Just seems like a lot of streaming if I share that process too. But I'm pretty happy with the block in here for the hand. Let me put Takiriko's painting back up here. You can definitely see some of the, the posture is very similar between both of our self-portraits, so I'm really happy with that. Yeah, maybe tomorrow or the next time I work on this, I'll try to work on the hand a bit more. I'm a little bit skeptical of what was I gonna say? Getting the portrait like completely done and then moving on to other things. I feel like when I work that way, they feel like very separate ideas, and I want all areas of the painting to feel connected. So, based on past paintings I've made, I feel like the lesson is to take a break on this at some point, start working on the background and other elements in the painting, and then come back and keep working on this part of the painting, the portrait. Because, yeah, like I said, it's really easy, I think, for me to get like this disconnected feeling between those areas of the canvas. Okay, well, I think that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, everyone who hung out with me during the live stream. I really appreciate being able to share this process with you. I hope you enjoyed watching the portrait develop a bit further today. I'm sure I'll probably be on YouTube again tomorrow, probably around the same time of day, like right around the afternoon, like early afternoon hours. If you have any questions or comments or feedback on this painting, feel free to share those down in the comments. If you are new to my artwork and my art practice, and you're discovering my work through this recording, I hope you'll check out my website, akunaarts.com. You can find it in the description of the video or on my profile. You can find a ton of information about some of the paintings I've made over the years, and yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Make sure that you're also on my email list if you're interested in collecting any of my artwork. I am having a shop update on my website on March 1st. So right now my online shop is closed, but it's going to reopen on the 1st of March and stay open for probably like a 2-week window. So if you want to be reminded about updates to my shop, make sure that you're on my email list, because subscribers to my email list also receive exclusive coupon discounts occasionally. So, all right, I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in a future live stream video.